We are now at our last item for information. It is the Capital Program Annual Report. Dr. Swift.
Thank you, Madam President and trustees. We have joining us the Capital team led by Assistant Superintendent Bernard Rice, who oversees our capital programs. And we are welcoming the team, and you can see as they populate on the screen here, it looks like we have Mr. Jason Bean and Ms. Stephanie Corona. So we are always so grateful to our community for supporting our capital program. There's Mr. Rice. And we, trustees, you've seen a lot on this because we've recently done the phase 2. So we don't want to spend too much time, but we are filing the annual report. And you have that attached to board docs. And it is worthwhile for us to overview that with you. But the team is taking some care not to duplicate too much with all the things that we've been talking about for many weeks and months now. Mr. Kevin Stansbury is joining there as well. All right. I think I'm just handing it over to Mr. Rice and let them rock and roll here.
Thank you, Dr. Swift, Madam President and Board of Trustees and the Ann Arbor community. Just to make sure everybody's awake, anyone can answer this question: an apple a day
Dr. Way
keeps the doctor away. See, well, good. Everybody's grounded now, so we're ready to go.
Trustee Johnson gets the apple.
So he gets the star of the day. Well, we are pleased to present the 21-22 Capital Program Annual Report, which provides a summary of the work achieved to date in the improvement of Ann Arbor Public Schools facilities. This team has been charged to transform what's best for kids, the students' learning experience, with the goal of providing for health, safety, and well-being of all students. This vision is of the Board of Education, capital programs, and the commitment made to Ann Arbor Public Schools. With each capital improvement project over the last year and since the passing of the bond, AAPS continues to keep promises and commitments made to community, staff, most of all, students. Thank you, Ann Arbor community, for your support for our students and families and this generational investment in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. All this could not be done without the accomplishment of this team and partners with Gilbane Building Group. We appreciate them wholeheartedly. And with that, I turn it over to Stephanie.
Thank you. And thank you for having us here, trustees and Dr. Swift. So wanted to give a brief overview of the annual report that we provided. In the report, we have several sections, but we're going to briefly cover some of the accomplishments that have occurred and a little bit of what's in the report. First of all, just as a follow-up to what Mr. Rice said, our focus has really been on their phase 1 early work and on the ongoing capital improvement projects, focusing heavily on the FCA and on our air conditioning and lighting projects and stabilizing our schools. The stabilization includes not just the air conditioning and lighting and LED improvements, lighting improvements, but roofing improvements, paving improvements, and also just a stabilization of the exterior of our buildings. It's really important to note that that on the average, our buildings are now 67 years old, that we have 5 schools that are going to hit 100 years old this year. And our number of projects that we did in 2022 was 35, which is up from 22 projects that we did in 2021. And all 35 buildings have received some type of improvement to date. And so far, we've had $94 million in capital expenditures. Again, focusing on our air conditioning and LED lighting, we did complete 7 projects so far. We have several that are currently in the process right now that we're at. We've done over 147,000 square feet of roof replacement, ordered over 84,000 square feet of roof coating improvements. we've replaced over 311,000 ceiling tile, and that we've also installed over 29,000 lineal feet of fire suppression. That's the equivalent of over 5 miles. And more importantly, we currently have 2.4 million square feet of air conditioning provided at 24 schools. And that's 70% of our schools so far. We've improved on our theater rigging, our playgrounds, and our paving. Roofing, we did quite a few roofing projects, and this was really key for us in order to keep the elements out of our building and stabilize them, in addition to adding solar. We did other capital improvement projects that included athletic surfaces, stormwater. We added classrooms. We stabilized exterior of buildings. We do have some upcoming projects coming up in 2023. We will have, I believe next year, we're going to have approximately 40 projects that will be going on at the same time in the summertime. We'll be continuing with our air conditioning and LED projects. And we also will be looking to do some improvements to our Huron High School pool filtration, several elevator improvements throughout the district. Again, more roofing, solar, and wrapping up our theater rigging improvements. Kevin's going to speak a little bit about some of our individual project highlights. We had several that were noted in the annual report, but Kevin's going to talk about Mitchell and Pathways.
Good evening, trustees and Superintendent Swift. Yeah, I'll be briefly sharing progress on the Mitchell and Pathways projects. Both projects made excellent progress in the latter half of 2022 on the way to a spring 2023 schematic design presentation to the board. This slide and the next share images contained in the annual report taken from the fall engagement summary document for Mitchell Elementary. This engagement involved a discovery process where the architects met with school leaders, students, school staff, school families, district leadership, and community partners in focus groups and workshops. The architects used images and written prompts to generate dialogue, getting definition from stakeholders on highly prioritized aspects of new Mitchell's desired learning environment. This engagement strengthened the conceptual design, which will go through a second engagement process in mid-January, where we expect continued improvement. The next two slides contain images taken from the fall engagement at Pathways, with group participation, presentation tools, and results similar to Mitchell's. Pathways will also see a second engagement in mid-January. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jason.
Thank you, Kevin. Good evening, trustees and Dr. Swift. The capital programs team continues to support our commitment to sustainable and environmentally responsible infrastructure through the installation of rooftop solar energy systems, the investment in more energy efficient electric heating and cooling systems, including geothermal, the installation of high efficiency LED lighting, and other measures to support healthy, high performance school buildings for our students and staff. At the time of this update, the district is the largest institutional owner of solar in Washtenaw County, and we are believed to be the largest K-12 public school district solar generator in the state of Michigan. After our current systems are fully energized, we estimate an annual savings of over $180,000 for AAPS, which extended over a 20-year period would save the district more than $3.5 million in retail electrical costs. Additionally, once the Clegg and Forsyth geothermal systems are online in 2023, AAPS is expected to own 3 of the largest geothermal electric heating and cooling fields in the region. Operational improvements and investments have taken place in transportation, food service, and school facilities. One of the highlights for our capital programs and physical properties team is the receipt of over $400,000 in DTE energy efficiency rebates to date. This is the result of hard work on the part of AAPS Director of Physical Plant working with DTE and a commitment to upgrade our building energy management and control system as well as LED lighting upgrades. And further, you'll recall the many investments made over the last couple years to support air and water quality through enhanced ventilation, touchless fixtures, and hydration stations. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Minnick.
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. Now we turn our attention to how these projects are funded. So on the left of this slide, you can see the circular chart illustrates the cumulative investments over the 2 years of the current capital improvements program. By the bond funds illustrated in the blue shading, and by the sinking fund illustrated by the green shading. And we are especially grateful for the community and Board of Education support for these referendums to fund this work and also to protect the general fund for teaching and learning and those support services. But the circular chart indicates that 75%, 3/4 of the work to date is funded by bond funds, and another 25% then funded by sinking funds. The color coding of the blue and the green is consistent across the charts on the slides that we will see here. The chart on the right shows those cumulative expenditures first by year as you look across the columns, and then as you look down the rows, it illustrates it by the funding source. So first the bond fund, and then the sinking fund, and then it illustrates it by category. So there's quite a bit of detail here for those who would like to take a closer look at another time. But a few key takeaways from this chart. Notice that the categories of the types of expenditures, particularly in the blue lines highlighted by the darker lines, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and buses. Those are outlined with bars there to illustrate that those types of expenditures are only allowable by the bond fund. So these types of expenditures are not allowable by the sinking fund. So some types of allowable sinking fund expenditures are associated with repairs, as well as renovations, other types of improvements, remodeling, new construction. However, preventive maintenance is not allowed by sinking fund, nor are supplies or consumables or equipment, nor even the purchases of buses or technology type expenditures. Conversely, bond funds are defined for purposes outlined in the ballot language in the November 19 referendum. So it includes new construction, building additions, renovations, remodeling, a lot of the similar expenditures that are allowed by the sinking fund, but bond funds also provide for the purchases of buses, technology, and furniture and fixtures and other types of equipment. Repairs, while those are sinking fund eligible, they are not allowable by bond funds. And then preventive maintenance is not allowed by sinking fund or bond funds. Preventive maintenance being perhaps purchasing air filters, those kinds of things to prevent costly repairs. Those are not allowable costs. On the next slide then, a lot of the same data is represented here, but in a different format. We can see on the chart at the top, this time the data showed the cumulative expenditures, excuse me, combined, however, for the bond and the sinking fund in those columns, yet still indicated by category, but combined across those rows. The chart at the bottom of the page, once again, shows the cumulative value of the bond fund and the sinking fund, totaling $94.4 million. But it adds on a separate line there, the ongoing repairs from the sinking funds. So the sinking funds have been with the district for some time, but those sinking funds account for ongoing repairs across the district. So we want to illustrate the fact that those sinking funds are absolutely leveraged to improve our facilities and learning environments. So over the course of the 2 years since July 1st of 2020, we have invested nearly $32.4 million for a grand total of cumulative total investments of $126.8 million in Ann Arbor Public Schools, facilities, and infrastructure. Proceeding to the next slide, please. Both bond funds and sinking funds may be used to acquire land. So recently, the district has acquired 2 key properties over the past fiscal year. First, property located at 3700 Earhart Road. This acquisition fulfills a critical need for additional space in our northeast sector and provides space dedicated for children, families, and community, including such functions as early childhood and family programs, perhaps recommend early childhood programs, parenting and family classes, parent welcome center, a dedicated professional development space, and meeting and training space for staff and the community, along with office space. The second key property acquisition is located at 2862 Stone School Road. It is located adjacent to the existing Pathways to Success academic campus. And this strategic property acquisition will be utilized for a new building scheduled for a construction start in 2024. And with that, I'll turn it back to Mr. Bing for final remarks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Minnick. And in summary, with each capital improvement project over the last year and since the passage of the bond, AAPS strives to keep the promises and commitments made to our students, staff, and community. A special thank you to the Ann Arbor community for their support of our students and families and this incredible investment in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. For those looking for the full report and more information on the capital program, please visit our website, a2schoolsbond.org. And thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bing, and thank you, team. Great work. We've had a chance to review this in bond. Well, I would just like to close out and say that this work that you've done and this report is very important work, and it shows that it is important to keep our very old buildings well maintained. It's amazing that 5 of them will be 100 years old, and we've got an average age of 67 years for the rest of them. There's a lot of work that has to be maintained on these buildings to keep them up to standard, up to code, and safe for our students and our staff. It's also good to see that we've done some of these improvements to increase the savings per year on our utilities. And it's good to see that this work is not only, it does cost money upfront to install this, but in the end, it's a good investment. It makes our buildings more efficient, and it's good to see the numbers that we can put some value to those efficiencies, like the LED lighting, the improved HVAC systems, and also that your team went through the painstaking process of documenting all the savings of LED and energy saving equipment that we've installed in our buildings to get a rebate check from DTE. That is a good program that has obviously paid off. Well, thank you very much. It is great work, and keep it up. It's fantastic, and thank you to our community for allowing us to do this good work for our schools and keeping our facilities updated. It will impact every student in this district and improve their learning environment. So thank you very much.